Hey Deployment Insider, Microsoft has released new security updates for the Microsoft 365 apps and you need to get them out of the door as quickly as possible. This video will explain various ways how you can expedite these updates in your environment. So we're in a hurry, let's get started. Maybe you recall this situation. You're enjoying your first coffee of the day while kind of browsing through the list of the latest releases for the Microsoft 365 apps. And at the same time, security is kicking in your door, asking you to get the updates out to as many devices as quickly as possible. Maybe there's a critical security fix in it or an important bug fix, but this time your regular approach with, for example, deploying the update to ring number one or wave number one first and then observe if everything is running well doesn't apply. Get it out of the door as quickly as possible. So to not lose any further time, check out the timestamps in the video description, select the update management technology that you're currently using, and we will walk you through the steps to expedite your updates. Before we start talking about how to expedite updates, I would like to encourage you to use the Security Update Status feature in the Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. This can help you first to understand where are you today, so before you're expediting your updates, how many devices are missing the latest security updates, and then second, it can help you along the way to kind of monitor the progress of updates rolling through your environment and being installed on all devices. So it's available in the Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. So go to configoffice.com and sign in into this portal and then navigate to Health and Security Update Status. On the top, you will see you can get a quick overview. So apparently my environment is pretty bad. 0 out of 6 devices are currently updated. I can drill down to see which devices are actually missing updates. So if this is a low number, maybe I want to trigger updates on these devices manually or check what's going on. On the bottom, you have the breakdown by channel, or it's broken down by channel. So I can see, for example, I have 2 channels in my environment and how many devices on these various channels already have received the updates. And this feature covers all Microsoft 365 app instances which are connected to your tenant. So it might be that you only want to support 2 update channels, but maybe your tenant or connected to your tenant are 3-4 different update channels. Then it is very important to also update these devices because they can pose a risk to your tenant and to your environment. Please note the card in the middle called goal is to kind of show you a prediction if you will meet your goal. So when you change this goal, for example, to my target time is just 2 days, 100%, this will not change how the various systems are deploying updates in your environment. It's just the goal which is shown on this page. So you're using cloud updates to manage updates for your monthly enterprise channel and potentially your current channel? Great. Let's log into the portal and I will show you the various sections where you can adjust settings to make updates going out to your devices quicker. Sign in with your admin credentials and then in the left navigation go to cloud updates. And let's start with the monthly enterprise channel, which is maybe the most commonly used channel when it comes to cloud updates. Open the settings tab, and then first of all, the first setting is rollout waves. So if we want to expedite updates, of course, we don't want to use waves. So there are basically 2 options. If you still want to keep waves, you can delete a few waves, but to really get updates out of the door as quickly as possible, switch to no, we do not need waves. Hit save and we're good here. Then next up is deadline. So the update deadline determines the time between a client has tried to install the update for the first time and might not be able to because the apps are open and running, and the time it gives the user or the system to automatically update the apps in the background before it starts nagging the user. So for my tenant, that's set to 5 days. That's too long. Let's crank it down to 0 days and hit save. 0 days basically means the device will download the update, extract everything, will try to apply the update. If it can't, it will immediately prompt the user and ask the user, please close your applications. And the user can, of course, they can still postpone this several times, roughly 48 hours. But after 48 hours, there will be a countdown for the users that they have to close the applications, and then the update will be enforced. Within this time frame, the roughly 48 hours, cloud updates will still try to apply the update silently in the background, or during the device is rebooted or is in a locked and idle state. So 0 days does not mean that we disrupt the user in terms of just closing the applications, but we will prompt user immediately. All right, so that sets monthly enterprise on kind of the quick path for pushing out the update. There are some other settings we should look at, kind of the settings which are covering both monthly enterprise channel and current channel. So let's switch back to the overview page, go to tenant settings, and then check if there is an exclusion window set. Of course, it doesn't make sense to try to push out updates as quickly as possible and at the same time exclude a certain group or your entire organization for a certain time frame from updates. All right, so I have a scoped exclusion window here for my sales and marketing team. So I will select this and delete this entry so the updates can just flow also to my sales and marketing team. And then also there's an entry for exclusions. So I can exclude groups. So check if you have this set up. So these devices are excluded. They will not get updates from cloud updates. So make sure that you remove all the groups, or maybe you can reduce the number of groups you're using. In my case, I will switch to don't include any devices. So even so in the past, I was excluding those. Now they will be controlled by cloud updates, so they also get the updates. If I keep devices excluded, make sure that you have a plan how to update these devices. All right, hit save again. And then next up, we are looking at the current profile. For current channel, the profile does not offer as many options. So when we look at settings, there's also a deadline settings, but we don't, for example, have custom waves here. So let's crank down the deadline to 0 days as well and hit save. So what now happens in the background is that cloud updates will reprocess the updated instructions or rules that you have set. So please update all these settings basically in one go, hit save on any page, and then just let it sit a bit so it can process the changes, and then it will start updating your devices. So next up, expediting updates using Intune or group policies. So I will cover Intune and group policies in the same section because the options you have to configure are basically the same. In the one scenario, you do this in the Intune admin center and you configure a configuration profile. And with just group policies, you do this in the classic Active Directory environment, and you use the group policy management to create and apply group policy to your users. Please note that the policy management in the Apps Admin Center does not support this machine-based or machine-targeted group policies, so this cannot be used. So let's go through the steps. In the Intune Admin Center, as I mentioned, if you're managing your devices using Active Directory, it's basically the same options we want to set. So I will switch to devices, and then I go to configuration profiles, and I create a new profile for Windows 10 or later. Let's profile type is templates, and we want to go through our options are included in the administrative templates. Hit create, give it a name, hit next, and then navigate to Microsoft Office 2016 machine, which will still apply to the Microsoft 365 apps. And then there's a subsection called updates. So click on this, and this gives us multiple options related to updates. So let's go through the ones which are important. So first, delay downloading and installing updates. I recommend to disable the setting just in case that the device has an existing configuration regarding this setting. So disable this. We don't want to delay anything. Okay, enable automatic updates. Set this to enable to make sure that the automatic update engine gets activated and is checking in with the Office CDN on a regular basis. All right, then hide update notifications should be disabled, so your users are informed there's an update action pending, and they, for example, should close their applications to apply the update. So make sure that this is set to disabled. Then target version, this is an important one. Set this to enabled and look up the build you want to go to in the Microsoft documentation. I will put a link into the video description, and then type in 16.0 and then we put in the major version and we put in the min version. By setting the target version, we are bypassing any throttle which might be applicable to the Office CDN. So by default, when Microsoft releases an update to the Office CDN, we throttle this. So not all devices which are connecting to the Office CDN and requesting or asking is there a new update will get the response, yes, there's a new update, version XYZ, please go forward. But if you specify the target version, it will not ask the question, is there a new update? It will directly connect to the Office CDN and specifically ask for this target version here. So make sure that you have the right number in 16.0 major version minor version, so your devices can directly grab this release from the Office CDN. Also, these release numbers are specific for the different update channels. So if you have 2, 3, 4 different update channels in your environment, you have to basically build 2, 3, 4 different configuration profiles and target them to the right subset of devices. All right, so I have the target version set here, and then I select update deadline and switch this to enabled, and I put in a 0. So it basically tells then the engine there's no time, or there should be no time between the engine has downloaded the update and is ready to install it, and prompting the user for the first time if they have running their applications and we can't update the applications because they are open with a deadline 0. The user basically gets prompt immediately telling the user there's an update pending, please close your applications. All right, enabled 0, and that's it. These are the options we want to set. Then hit next, select the scope, assign it to a group, and then review and create. And with the next check-in of your devices into Intune, or if you have done similar steps in your Active Directory, the next time they are kind of requesting the group policies, which by default is every 90 minutes, they will pull down this information, write it into registry. Then when the click-run update engine runs the next time, which by default is also every 90 minutes, it will see these new informations and then start acting accordingly. So allow some time for your devices to acquire the information, and then the click-run engine put the new configuration into action. So that is how you do this in Intune, and very similar in the classic Active Directory using group policies. When it comes to managing updates with Configuration Manager, or SCCM as we still call it, I think for most admins there is nothing new to explain. Of course, you should set the type of your deployment to required, the deadline potentially in the past or just 1 or 2 days out, so that the Configuration Manager is enforcing installing the updates pretty quickly. For the Microsoft 365 apps, there are 2 additional things you should consider. The one is when you create your update deployment package, there's an option you can select to allow devices to fall back to the Microsoft or Office CDN for missing files. So imagine you support English and German in your environment, and these are also the 2 languages configured for your distribution points and your software update point. So your Configuration Manager will pull down all the required files to update installations of the Microsoft 365 in English or German or both. But what if a device has a Spanish language pack installed? In this case, the update will fail because files are missing on the distribution point. By setting this option, you will allow this device from being blocked to update to actually perform the update. It will pull from the distribution point what it needs, and everything what is missing, it will directly download from the Office CDN. This might put some load on your network depending on how many devices have additional languages installed. But on the other hand, you're unblocking these devices from updating. The other piece of advice or a tip I would like to share is we have a documentation, and I will share this document or share the link in the video description on how to build dynamic collections for the Microsoft 365 apps with Configuration Manager. And I want to call out 2 dynamic collections in this documentation. The one is a dynamic collection which will catch all your devices which are running the Microsoft 365 apps. So instead of having a static collection where you expect that everyone in this collection has Microsoft 365 apps and all devices outside don't have the apps, we can create a collection with a rule or a query, to be more precise on it, which is querying the database from Configuration Manager to determine if there are actually Microsoft 365 apps installed. So this makes sure that we cover all devices or managed devices which are reachable by Config Manager in this collection and can assign an update to it. It doesn't matter if there's a mix of current channels, semi-annual, monthly, enterprise channel, and so on machine in this collection. You can just assign all the updates you need to the collection. So for example, assign the latest semi-annual, current channel, and monthly enterprise channel update to this collection, and each individual device will communicating with the Configuration Manager and send the information which update it needs. So one device is a semi-annual installation, so it will signal Config Manager it requires this specific update, and then only this specific update is sent down to the device. And the same for a device, for example, on current channel. So assigning different channels to the same collection does not mean that all devices are getting all the updates downloaded, and also that I'm not changing the update channel on these devices. So put everyone into one group, assign all your updates to them, and let them sort out the rest by themselves. Also, I want to call out from this documentation, there is a sample query which allows you to create a dynamic collection which is catching devices which are on a build under a certain threshold. So if you want to quickly get an overview how many of my devices are below a certain release that I'm interested to get devices above this release, look up the release number in the update history that we publish and take the query from this page, adjust the build number at the end, and create a dynamic collection with this, and then only devices which are running a Microsoft 365 app installation with a lower build will be automatically added to this device. So for example, you can then trigger these devices in this collection to perform a software update evaluation cycle more often and see if this expedites your update, because then you should see these devices dropping out of this collection again when they are above this threshold. That's a pretty easy way to monitor how many devices haven't met the bar yet in your environment. All right, that's it for Configuration Manager. Required deployment, go with an aggressive deadline. Make sure that you allow devices to reach out to the Office CDN in case of any missing files, and then potentially create a few new dynamic collections to get a better insight into your environment. Don't be afraid to assign all updates to the same collection with all your devices in. They will sort it out on their own, and then you should be ready to go. And finally, we will touch on how to expedite updates using the command line. So we don't recommend to do this at scale. We recommend to use servicing profiles or Intune, or use SCCM, or maybe managing updates with Active Directory group policies. So, but if you don't have these tools available, or you're not able to put them into action for any reason, you can also trigger an update, of course, through the UI, but just going into file account update now. But you can also trigger this through command line. So if you're aware there's a number of devices and I can do a ps-exec to run a remote command on these devices, you can do so. As I mentioned, that's not advisable as a best practice doing this month over month or at scale, but if it's kind of a limited audience, that's potentially fine to do. So when it comes to triggering updates from the command line, the update engine itself is located in C program files, command files, Microsoft shared, click to run. The Office C2R client.exe, that's the service executable. That's the service running in the background the whole time, which is managing updates. And we can trigger this with a /update, blank or space, and then user. That's basically the same trigger being sent to the service when the user in the UI clicks on update now. So send this, and UI will pop up showing the user that Office is checking for updates and potentially downloading and applying updates. So very straightforward, but as I mentioned, not a very scalable approach. All right, that's it for today. Hopefully this is helpful for you. If you're looking for a way to expedite updates, you can use all the ways we have described, or maybe it's a combination of the options we have described for your environment. If you have any questions, don't hold back to put them into the comments. We're reading all of them and we're trying to answer all of them as long as the format of YouTube comments is allowing us to do this. If you want to stay up to date on our content, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and then till next time, keep on deploying updates in this case.